As you navigate through life and explore what it has to offer you, let me give you a piece of advice. You don't need to have it all figured out.
You're listening to Mind Manners, hosted by licensed psychotherapist Albert Nguyen. Albert helps his clients overcome past trauma, change their mindset, and accelerate their personal and professional development. This podcast covers a wide range of mental health and self-development topics, with each episode offering an actionable step towards a better you. If you're on a wellness journey, keep listening.
When we're young, we get the same common advice on what we need to do and be when we become adults. And it's usually around a career. And we've heard it many times, like be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer, be a teacher, etc., etc. None of which really encourages or cultivates your authenticity. You may have a passion and love for music, writing, art, but are often bombarded by advice and messages that tell you that these are just hobbies and that they won't secure a successful future. And as we get older and into college and the workforce, the pressure only increases. Everyone wants to know what you're going to do, and you feel like you need to know. What's your major? What do you plan to do with that major? What job do you plan to have? And how much money will you make because of those plans? Pressured by ideas of success that are not even your own. Everything feels so final, written in stone, but that's not how life works. Our life is ever evolving, and we can adapt and change our path along the way. Thoughts like, I'm not ready, or I don't have enough experience, or I don't know, can stop us from ever giving anything a shot. And it's hard to challenge the status quo when we have this type of thinking. It can make us take many different routes towards a goal. Or worse, we just procrastinate, and that dream or goal may never manifest itself into real life. We often think we need to have it all figured out. Well, I want to tell you that you don't. Life is an adventure, and there are many versions of you that spans throughout this lifetime that you have yet to experience and get to know. Look, I get it. There's a lot of anxiety and fear of the unknown, of failure and fear of what others might think. So we accept the common idea of success and security through traditional jobs and education and come up with thoughts and ways of thinking to help provide a sense of security and safety, even if this creates an internal prison for ourselves called the comfort zone, which becomes hard to step out of. Society encourages this way of thinking. Companies and jobs, the school system, family, and friends. We talk about things like job security, retirement, education, rules and guidelines. It becomes hard to think for ourselves and cultivate self-autonomy, and in a society that tries to keep us practically average or the same. Don't get me wrong here. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It's safe and it works. It's a standardized way of living. But for some of us, we've gotten there and realized that's not happiness or true fulfillment. For years, I myself tried to fit in, to follow the rules, follow the beaten path and path of least resistance until it just didn't work anymore. I kept hearing this part of me, this inner voice crying out for more, that I'm living someone else's life and not my own. We all have this intuition, that gut feeling, those moments where something inside is calling us. But somewhere along the way, we've learned to ignore this voice and trade it for the complacency of security and leading and dominant way of living. And most of all, we worry too much about what other people think. And in the end, perhaps the real fear is we're afraid of what people would think of us if we truly move beyond the bell curve and become an outlier and chase our dreams. I talked about this a bit in my last session, the strong pull of people-pleasing and this loss of identity due to a basic human need to be accepted and to be loved. And it all happens all the time. There's just so much noise that drowns out our inner voice, that authentic part of us. And when it comes to begin trusting ourselves, we become fearful of having full autonomy and control of our lives. But let me tell you, this adventure, yes, this life is an adventure that will help you harness your truest form. And it's one where you really don't have to have it all figured out because it's a constant process of learning and growing. So let me share a bit of my personal story. A couple of years ago, I left a six-figure job from a wonderful, prestigious company that I actually loved and was in alignment with what I believed in. It had great benefits and perks. So the question is, why did I leave? And to be honest with you, a lot of people actually thought I was crazy. Well, I have always felt that I was meant to do something on my own, to follow my intuition, and to start my own business with no guarantees that I would make up the salary that I was making at a company. And I accepted that. I also accepted that I didn't have it all figured out. I never really started a serious business or knew much about being an entrepreneur. I was a therapist, just wanting to push my passion for human welfare and mental health to new limits and at the same time create a lifestyle that wasn't held down by a 9 to 5. Because I actually want to set up my future in a way where I would be able to prioritize what matters most in my future. And I didn't want to build my life around the dependency and rules of a job. I wanted to build my job and rules around my life and priorities. I wanted the ultimate freedom to choose and to create and provide. And even to this day, I still don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning as I go, refining my own process, and I'm growing in the direction I want. It's scary, lonely at times, and but you learn so much about yourself. The point here is, had I not stepped out of the security of my job, my dream would have remained a dream, just an idea. Our comfort zones have limits, but outside of it, there is no end. And that's what most of us need to understand and reframe for ourselves. The idea around the unknown. The unknown is a vast space of infinite and endless possibilities. There are no walls or glass ceilings there. There's a concept in psychology called radical acceptance. It's simply the practice of fully accepting things as they are, instead of ignoring, avoiding, or wishing things were different. And I want to share some of my truth statements and help illustrate how we can use this idea of radical acceptance to improve our sense of self-worth and how it can be a healthy way to approach self-development and as we learn to adapt and evolve. So to start, accept that you don't need to have it all figured out. Accept that you don't know everything. Accept that mistakes are part of the game of life. Accept that failure is a part of success and that you cannot succeed without it. Accept that there are a lot of things you can't do and that there are also a lot of things you can do. Accept that you are built to adapt to anything with time and effort. Accept that there are things you can't control. You can't control the outcome, but you can control the effort you put in. These are some of my truths. The point of accepting certain truths is to let it go, to stop trying so hard to control it, judge it, avoid it, or ignore it. These things exist and may be running your life. So acknowledging the reality of them, we can stop hiding from them or giving too much real estate in our own minds. It's a waste of energy that we can redirect elsewhere and leverage. Too many pains and stress are on things we can't control. Life is art, and art is hardly ever created from overthinking. It's from letting go and seeing what happens, experimenting, trying, and practicing. So let's get things out of the way and radically accept that you will screw up from time to time. We all do, even the best among us. Nobody's perfect. The scary thing is that the fear of failing can lead to actually failing. It stops many of us from trying, from moving towards a goal, or from making progress. What I've discovered over the years is that nobody really knows for sure what's up ahead in the forecast of their future. But clarity comes from taking a step forward into that fog. I've also discovered over the years that many of us have no idea who we are. We're not just labels, one word or one way. We're constantly changing and evolving. Not knowing, to me, is part of the journey. So it's okay if you don't know. You can and you will learn. But you can't grow and learn if you tap dance around the truth. We tend to have a lot more than we think we have. Radical acceptance is not giving up or giving into complacency. It's not just positive thinking. It's not condoning or proving a situation as acceptable. It's not an excuse for unhealthy behaviors. It's about looking at the cold, hard facts of your situation and consciously deciding what you can and cannot control and deciding what to do with that information. It's about learning to surf the waves of life. We are all a work in progress. We're always changing, adapting, and adjusting. What kind of life do you actually want to live? Like, really, not the life you think you're supposed to live, but the one you actually want. And don't tell me it's a 9-to-5 job. Did you know the concept of a 9-to-5 and a 40-hour work week is dated back towards the 1930s and 40s? Yes. You're operating and thinking on an outdated and old idea. And if you're listening to your parents, you're probably also listening to old ideas. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a 9-to-5 or that you shouldn't work more or less. What I'm saying is you should have more creative control and autonomy on how to create your life and live the life that you want. And don't filter and confine yourself to dream up a good life. Live life like an artist and reinvest in the imaginative power you have or you had when you were a child. We're more than just labels. We are creative beings. When you label yourself a specific way or describe yourself based on a label, you artificially and subconsciously rob yourself of the spontaneity that comes from discovering other parts of you, your true potential and passions. And I can tell you that throughout my practice of providing therapy, I have seen some amazing change and transformation. Sometimes it does require us to hit the bottom and experience certain tragedies and hardships in life. But the point is, we are fully capable of deviating from the norm and break through those glass ceilings that keep us complacent. So what are you going to do? How are you defining your life? How are you letting your fears get in the way of doing things or preventing you from exploring your life? So what radical accepting statements or of truths that you need to have or can come up with about your life and areas of your life that you feel stuck in? How are you going to remove the barriers that are blocking you from the natural process of self-discovery and self-exploration and tap into the infinite unknown? Write them out, share them, talk about it. Speak your truths. Again, you don't have to have the right answers, but I believe questions are a good start of opening doorways into the parts of the unknown. So ask questions. Challenge the status quo, but don't be locked on having an answer. From my work with people, over-intellectualizing the process is one of the reasons we're stuck. Sometimes you just need to remove the barriers, open the door, and allow things to flow. And let go and see what happens as you brave the wilderness. You are part of a larger picture, and you can be many things all at once. And it's always up to you to choose or create which versions of yourself that you want to identify with and integrate it into life that's worth living. And with all that said, let me end this with a beautiful quote from the movie Coach Carter, which is a version of the Marianne Williamson's poem. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. You playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us. It is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And there you have it. I believe you all have legendary status inside of you. Whether you explore that or not is entirely up to you. And until next time, keep flexing that brain and be the captain of your ship. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Manners with Albert Nguyen. We hope you found value in this episode. If you'd like to work with Albert one-on-one, visit optimindcounseling.com to learn more about his private practice. Looking to join a community of like-minded individuals? Search Mind Manners Podcast Community on Facebook and join our group to connect with others on their wellness journeys. Finally, if you haven't already done so, please write us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and let us know you're enjoying the show.